All right, hello again, everybody. My name is Gabriel Rucker, and I am the CEO of Titen AI and the host of the Tales from the Pantheon podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on for another episode today. We have a really special guest. Before we go into that, I want to give you guys some context on essentially what this podcast is for. So, Tales from the Pantheon is really just a no BS podcast specifically to provide entrepreneurs, community builders, just professionals, decision makers with real life stories and, real individuals that are kind of giving a lot of different context into what they've experienced and some of the projects that they're working on. We want to make sure that with what we're building with Titen AI, that we're giving everybody the opportunity within our different ecosystems and networks or individuals even outside of that, just the platforms to be able to tell their stories. And so what is Titen AI? Titen AI is a community-focused relationship optimization platform. In short words, we're building a system that helps, decision makers, community builders, and enterprises with 10xing their engagement and their network size. Matching them with the right people, businesses, communities, events, and resources, and not just telling them who and what to connect with, but also how and why. But enough about us. I would love to bring up our amazing guest today, CS Freeland, who is over the Texas Venture Fest that is going on this Thursday, but also as the executive director for the Texas Venture Alliance here in Austin, I guess in all of Texas, really. So let me bring her on right now. Hey, CS.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what you're about, all of the things.
Sure. Well, as you can kind of see in my background, I've been here in Austin. I've been in downtown Austin, Texas for about 10 years and in Austin for 15. I spent some time, the majority of last decade, at a tech venture studio. And, since pandemic, I've joined an accelerator, an angel network, and more recently helped to co-found one local venture association and now Texas Venture Alliance for the past 3 years as a state trade association for innovation focused on the venture ecosystem of startup and entrepreneur support. And that's if I'm talking about myself in one breath, that's what we've been up to.
Yeah. Well, so we'll definitely have a lot more breaths or a lot more, context we'll be able to give throughout the rest of the session today. But really appreciate having you on again because last year we did a mini series specifically on the startup ecosystem just in general. And we were able to actually talk about, the Texas Venture Fest and the Gala that you have as well. You do a lot of really amazing community building events, not just here in Austin, Texas, but really across the entire state. I think you are one of the few people, if not the only person that I personally know that does things on just a massive scale. And so I really appreciate having you on. But jumping right into everything. So I know that, the Texas Venture Fest is really, the marquee venture experience or one of the marquee venture experiences for the entire state. So if you wouldn't mind telling everybody just what it is, what the original vision for it was and how it's kind of evolved.
Well, it just started. Now will be the 4th year in Austin. And the context was, well, I haven't really thought about this in a while. But yeah, but when we're coming out of pandemic, there was this influx of a full spectrum types of startup investors. Before, just to give you some more context, before pandemic happened in Austin, there might have been a handful, maybe 10 or so venture capital firms that considered Austin as their headquarters. And then coming out of pandemic, we saw a full spectrum type. It was very exciting, startup, angel investors, all the way to growth equity, family offices that act as pretty much anything or everything, venture studios, growth equity, angels and LPs. And we really felt like there should be some type of organization, literally and figuratively, around this ecosystem of entrepreneur support. And tactically, like, what does that mean? It's having a resource. Like, really, we first got started as a newsletter because there were so many new events. And remember when everything was opening back up, we really wanted to be in person. We missed each other, and we had to like rethink social skills. I know I had to at least.
I know I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we started having events, and so long story short, I guess, I was like, here in Austin, we've got a really great startup crawl, and it features startups of all shapes and sizes. And it's a really, and, has been a long-standing staple in the community, really since at least 2010, I believe. I think I was at the first or second one. And I was like, well, what if we had a venture crawl and we made the VCs have it? And, to the founders, venture capital and different types of investments and support could be like a black box. They're just, founders are trying to solve a problem. And so when you add capital into that, what does that mean? So that's how it got started. And so, it was it was Silverton Partners, and they have an office downtown. I worked with Matt there, who I pitched, like a founder myself. I'm very entrepreneurial. I pitched him this idea. I'm like, hey, would you be open to co-hosting with us? And we'll promote Silverton as a stop. And then, a lot of investors were supportive in addition to that. And then we had a great first Austin venture crawl. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I didn't know how it was going to be, but it was a success. I mean, if investors say they're going to open their doors and have a big event, like, it's not going to be hard to get people to show up,
Yeah,
entrepreneurs
honestly, like,
in the
you'll at least get the
ecosystem.
founders to show up for sure. If a VC opens their doors, you'll get an influx of people in there for sure.
So we did that. It was a big hit, and they're Texas-based investors too. So it's in their thesis to back founders in Texas. So after that. I went all over Texas that summer. I went to Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, the Metroplex area, San Antonio, even places like Brownsville, which is a part of what they call the Rio Grande Valley RGV, and maybe places that are emerging like that, because Brownsville's got the rockets that are supposed to go to Mars. So we've got these really interesting ecosystems happening all over the state. And I said, look, we're going to have another venture crawl in Austin first Thursday of October. If you would like, have one with us, and I'll promote us all on the same page, and we'll be equally promoted on what's basically now Texas Venture Fest. So it's grown to, the first year was like 5 venues. The next year was something like 10. And then, oh my God, I'm like, am I getting my numbers right? Basically
I think
has
it's
like kind
around
of
those, honestly, because I know,
doubled.
like, yeah, even
It's
every single year
crazy.
it grows too, and it's become like this massive thing. Because I think I showed up for, if it was around 2021, I showed up for the first one that you had.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just 2022 October.
yeah, 2022,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
showed up for I've been to every single one actually that you posted so far, and it's grown massively just with every single thing. I think last year in Austin, there were at least like 3,000, 4,000 plus people just in the streets of Austin alone, like on 6th
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah, we probably we'll do a better job this year of make sure to collect registrant information on site. But, it is in Austin, it's around 1,500 people that we have as registrations. And then across the state, around 15. So in total, around 3,000 people, which really is the makeup of the venture and startup activity in the state. Austin kind of makes up about a little more than half or so of what the entire state of Texas does. And we've seen that over the past couple years. even with a right sizing of things, with a little bit of calming down in the market, and people returning back to their lives, where we're still feeling the ricochet effect, the earthquake effect of a global pandemic. But it's been a big community effort. Having said that, we banded together and we promoted each other. And the sister signature event to the Texas Venture Fest is 6 months. They're 6 months apart, and we bring together a lot of the hosts from all across the state, who not only lead by having a Venture Fest in their community, but they are connecting their network into the statewide network. And then we come together. That's around 300 people. The fest is 3,000 people. The galas, you're more like high-end, high-powered. We've got an awards dinner, and we do daytime programming. I don't know if I'm like skipping ahead in your questions.
No,
It
not
felt
even
like
that.
a
Yeah, no,
natural.
no. This is all great. And I mean, you've had even like politicians that have come in. Like I think even like the governor's office attended for the last gala and everything as well. So
Yeah, and that was sort of the last piece to it. Like we grew with the newsletter, and then I mean, we kind of know this in our world. Once you get like a newsletter and you have like X amount of contact information, you could really host events, online, in person. You could put events together. And I was like, well, if we say Texas, then we should really be inclusive of Texans from all over. And, I've been out to the Permian Basin, Midland and Odessa, where it's kind of like your oil and gas. I mean, it's like the largest area for, what is it, petroleum? Or I'm a little rusty on my talking points on Permian Basin. They do more than like Saudi Arabia and like Russia, like right here in Texas. So we share these stories when we come all together at the Texas Venture Gala and Forum. We have it here in downtown, which is where a lot of the venture activity is. And as you can see, it's an attractive place for people to come visit. And we really, I think about this really personally as the founder of these experiences, that everyone is co-hosting a Texas Venture Fest, and then 6 months later, now they're our guests. We welcome them to Austin, and it is like the feeling of seeing my friendships and business partners, co-creators from across the state come together, and then they meet each other. It's such a beautiful moment. No other state acts like this. We kind of brag a little bit in Texas. It ain't bragging if it's true, is what Adriana Cruz, who's the head of the governor's office, always says. It ain't bragging if it's true. No other state acts like this, but it's because we are not the big Silicon Valley or New York City. Well, but this is all, everyone already knows this, by the way, but we're not these bigger hubs. But we have an interesting opportunity in certain sectors. And when we work together, when we collaborate as a state in our own different ways, we come to the table with our own different regions, and our forte as different types of leaders in Texas. It's really powerful when we do this, and now people start to expect the gala, they expect the Venture Fest. It's a powerful thing. So it starts as just a newsletter, then it's just events, and now it's like, hey, let's get the ball rolling. And now we've included the governor's office. We've attracted a message from the White House, President Trump, and presidential cabinet member Kelly Loeffler, who's the head of the SBA, was a keynote speaker at the last gala. So, and Senator Ted Cruz, he's a big Texan figure. And so it was really interesting to see, these political figures in person. We see a lot of Ted Cruz and all of them in the news. And regardless of politics, these are very powerful figures that do affect our community. He's the Senate. Let me see if I get this right. He's the co-chair of the Senate Committee on Science and Technology, and really he can make a lot of decisions on behalf of our community, which is why we need to have an open door federally at the state level. And we also include our mayors as well. We had the former mayor of Austin, who, the environment and the culture that we've enjoyed here in Austin has made an attractive place for investors and founders and builders and tech folks was, under his leadership. So anyway, I'm a little bit rambling on that, but that was the opportunity. And it's been an incredible life adventure with all of these people. And you two also, we're gonna have a great time on Thursday.
Yeah.
And we've got a great audience. We have some last minute, tickets, but right now there's a lot of wait lists and venues closing.
Yeah, because they're at capacity.
They're packed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even last year without as many spots, and you guys have a lot more programming this year than even before with last year, and there were still, thousands of people that you brought together across, at least 10 plus cities, and now it's 15 plus this year. So it's kind of crazy. But even then, I mean, the bars were packed last year whenever we were trying to, hop in between different spots. I believe I was hanging out at like Moneta Ventures at a certain point. They had a setup there, and I talked to probably like 2 billionaires there just during that time randomly. And most people didn't even know. They thought they were just like entrepreneurs, but I was just having a casual conversation, and they were talking about some of the exits that they've had and everything else. I mean, as we went down the street to, like S3 spot and like Live Oak and everything, like those bars were just completely packed for pretty much the entire time that I was there. And so, it's difficult for most community builders, period, to pack out a venue, let alone, I think there were like 6-7 venues that you had booked last year, if not more, all on the same street that were all packed. And that was just in one city, because you guys were in San Antonio, Buda, what is it called? Houston, that like all of the major cities, all the way up to, I believe El Paso was on the list as well. Right. So it's like, and people don't realize how big Texas is. Like El Paso is not close at all. So like,
no, they're in a different time zone.
Yeah, no, they're completely like separate. Like Texas is absolutely massive. And so the ability to not only bring together a bunch of different cities, but also cities that aren't necessarily really close together, all operating literally at the exact same time. And so I guess my next question kind of centers around that, with like how you co-host and collaborate across multiple cities. Like what are the biggest challenges with that? What are the and we talked about some of the opportunities, but just with even orchestrating that like post event as well, like how you coordinate an ecosystem wide event, and then what the aftermath of that looks like.
Well, it is tough, especially what I'm saying is like 2 weeks or 2 days before the event, basically. But I had to slow down sometimes and then realize that when we talk about being collaborative, it is tough. Like but the opportunity is to collaborate in our own way, meaning like what I'm doing here in Austin, there are technically 10 different venues now, which is scary when I say it. But, I even literally last night, I was texting the Houston organizer, and he said, hey, do you have, a checklist for this or information on that? We're like sharing notes, and he's got a full day there of all sorts of investors in Houston. And, we're learning from each other. I have learned from Brownsville a lot, in the grand scheme of things, we're being really resourceful. We're testing out things in the community. And I think that's just the opportunity. And when it when it comes down to it, like tactically, it's like event planning. It is sharing resources, because they have partnered with us and help carry the Texas Venture name and brand. We always promote them in our newsletter. They help me sometimes by sponsoring the gala, for example. They sponsor their own Venture Fest and cover the costs on that. And then we're starting to think now, like, what's the next step from that? We have all learned from each other. We've inspired and grown new types of fests. So, it's kind of like when we talk about innovation, we used to say the word disruption a lot. We don't really say that anymore because like it's overused or whatever. But we talk about like these words, these like nice, friendly, or kind of sometimes cheesy words like innovation, disruption, community, collaborativeness. We're actually talking about a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's
and
not easy at all. It's like
yeah.
there are only a few people that I know that have created an event where it's like over 1,000 people. Like I've had an event that's been over like 3,000 people, but that was all in like one condensed space. Like doing this is a
Um,
massive undertaking,
mm,
even like for anybody. Period. Like that's why I'm
yeah.
flabbergasted at the fact that like okay, one city, I get it, but like multiple areas, I like people like unless you're a community builder, people don't understand like that's a lot of like stress, work, planning, like and for things to go off pretty much without a hitch, like it's like it's literally baffling because it's extremely difficult to do. It's a very fine art to get that done that honestly I don't even think I could do. So I applaud you because like
You're freaking me out.
no,
No, no,
no,
no.
it's not.
Thank you
It's
for
not
saying
easy. So that's
that.
why hell, I'm learning from you in these moments. I know a lot of other people that are community builders, like just in my network on our platform, just people that watch in. Like, I guarantee you, people are going to listen to this. People even last year when we talked, there were a couple of community builders that asked me, "It's like,
Oh,
so how the hell did she do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, I have no
man.
idea."
Well, thanks for saying that. Yeah. I mean, it's just hard. But if I think about how we've done this, maybe our weakness is also our strength. It's like, I just want to because we have this understanding of how difficult it is to gather people and across many different motivations and regions and skill sets, even ourselves. Like I'm working with different types of leadership all over the state. And then I think it's because we had this understanding how hard it is, we just care so much.
Yeah,
We're just like, oh my God, save me. Because we care so much. We're willing to just go above and beyond for others because when we do that for others and we know that our butts have been saved because others have done that with us,
yeah,
now we've got this is interesting. I'm thinking about it when I'm telling you. Now you're like my therapist now, but now we've got like this shared. We almost have like a shared struggle, a
yeah,
shared hardship.
yeah,
That's not just okay. Well, Texas has been seen as a flyover state. It's like a shared hardship of like the type of person who would lead in their communities. And after a couple of years, I'm like, look, state trade associations are essentially like membership clubs. And yes, you can have access to events and resources and all that. But in particular, with Texas Venture Alliance, because we are doing this really hard work and it's branded Texas, we have this shared hardship that it feels like its own community in general
yeah,
and adding more to that and in their own way would love to partner with you. We work with even in 2 days we have you featured with other venture podcasters. So what does the venture media, how do they
yeah.
play into it? Not just investors, not just incubators, accelerators. Now universities are starting to get a lot more involved as they see the need to be more resourceful in the community. And so I think that is where we really shine. And, the last thing I would say about it is we have started to partner with folks outside of Texas because they have seen all of this that's going on, and we make a lot of noise,
Yeah.
which we could do together as Texans, but also testing out in aligned regions that are kind of match Texas, which is hard to say because Texas is a microcosm. In my opinion, it's a microcosm of the country. When you go, maybe not exactly like maybe like New York or Silicon Valley, we might have a sliver of that in Austin, for Texas, but you would find anywhere in the country parts of Texas that are reflective of that. So I think
Yeah.
it's really awesome. And I got to learn that I actually became a U.S. Chamber Fellow. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the biggest spender of lobby dollars in the country, so
Yeah.
like in the world. And I was accepted as a fellow there out of about 30 of us from across the country. And I'm a little bit of a black sheep with that because I came in as a partner with our state chamber of commerce, the Texas Association of Business. And, they helped throw my hat in the ring with that. And we were learning from each other that, yeah, when I am meeting with the fellows, we learn from each other and learn from the U.S. Chamber program.
Yeah.
I've seen that here because I've driven all over the state. And we see a lot of rural America, but we see a lot of the country's biggest metros. Like Houston is like one of the biggest cities in the country.
Yeah.
Fort Worth, we see that we see to give context, we see Fort Worth as like sometimes the little sister to Dallas because Dallas is just so big, tons of money, big Dallas. But it's actually like the 13th or 14th biggest city in the country.
Yeah.
But when it's sitting next to Dallas, it just looks differently. So anyway, yeah, that's what I would say about Texas and future opportunities and thinking again nationally as Texas leadership can make a difference in this country. And that, the deputy administrator of the SBA, he's a Texan. Ross Perot Jr., I was just at his ranch and they had a big conference that the governor and his economic development team and his office have. Ross Perot Jr. is a big Texan name. He's a big Texan figure too. And now he's the chairman of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So, there's a lot of opportunities with that and it's great to see.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's even new things that I learn like each year being out in Texas because I'm a Vegas boy. I'm a city boy with country boy
Oh,
tendencies, but I'm not from Texas at all. My parents are both from Tennessee, so that's where my country boy comes from, and my city my city mouse comes from Vegas. So everybody thinks I'm from Texas. Sometimes it's kind of crazy, but
yeah, I feel like
even
you got Texan vibes to you.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They say
Yeah.
Austin's a little weird, so but no, it's interesting because even like the BBB out here, I believe is like the third largest BBB in the world, and everything else
Mm.
too. Like the numbers are just kind of when people say everything's bigger in Texas, it makes more sense the more that I hear just random facts about like just the amount of commerce and things that kind of flow through it, and it makes sense for it to be a major venture hub because of all the different aspects. And we're approaching, being a higher tiered city, but it takes time and effort and a lot of the programs and things like that you're putting on, and bringing the and local governments in because it's also not an easy task to do. I talked to other people in other states, and like you said, it's a unique thing to be able to actually accomplish that. But shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit more about like, your career and just like kind of your path into, jumping into ecosystem building. So like, when did you kind of realize that the path you're on would lead to like, ecosystem building and advocacy, whether, it was on the startup side like you are now, or even in other capacities like you're operating with like, state and local governments?
I didn't know. I had no idea that it was going to be like this. I didn't have, I don't want to be too hippie trippy on y'all, but in full transparency, I just kind of solved problems along the way.
Mhm.
I didn't ever think, it's weird for me to even say to myself, like, now that I've done these two trade associations, like, what? I was not really like that. But, I'm a fun and friendly person, like,
I
you
agree.
know,
Yeah.
thanks. I just
Yeah.
want, people to have a great time. That's what the fest is. But,
Yeah.
I'll say this because I was the founding executive director for the Austin Venture Association when we were coming
Mhm.
out of the pandemic. And I had this feeling before I met some of the board members there. I said, something's going on in Austin right now. I wanted to start a venture club, like Austin. I was calling like Venture Club, Venture Austin Club or something like that. And I was like, just something needs to be done, whatever shape or form this needs to be. Something's going to happen. We should lead it. And I was like, I will partner with you. They're actually like looking for someone to run point. And I'll tell you this, the first South by Southwest that we had coming back from pandemic, I was very nervous about it because I was like, is anyone even going to come? Like, are
Yeah.
people getting tickets to South by? And I shared my concerns with the board too. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't
Yeah.
want us to be seen as super spreaders. And I would be personally I would feel and I would be personally accountable. I'm like, I don't want people, you know, to get sick and die. Like that's the world that we were living in.
Yeah.
But it actually went off without a hitch. We had this big event and I didn't actually, this is kind of funny to say in an interview. I didn't actually tell them that I had never really planned an event before, like ever, beyond like an 8-person surprise birthday party, which happened right before pandemic. It was like in February of 2020. Like that was the last event that we and so, to your point, like how did I get all this ecosystem building? I
Mhm.
don't know. I like people for the most part. you know,
Yeah.
we give each other headaches, sure, for sure sometimes. But I'm like, I genuinely, and you gotta think like in our industry. Well, I haven't really been in that many other industries. Maybe lobbying, advocacy.
Yeah.
Hey, they have a lot of fun too. That's a social group for sure.
Oh
But
yeah, for sure. Politicians and lobbyists and all that. Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, you need to be networking.
that's a party environment in and of itself. I would say politicians are in the same realm as like salespeople, and so
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I can
no,
see
like
that.
same thing with conferences and all of that. It's a very similar
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah. So, I don't know. What was my point with that? It's people who are genuinely passionate, you gotta like networking is a big part of it. It was interesting to figure out how to network across Texas. And I was
Mm.
like, ooh, because people, again, being a little bit hippy trippy on this, there is a kind of trailblazing that we did years ago when I would try to add people on LinkedIn, not in a spammy way, but like, hey, I'm coming to town. Like, we're neighborly. I'm in Austin and would love to get to know you. That's how it all started. And technically on LinkedIn, people's people's profile picture was grayed out. I'm so glad I'm like telling you this. I'm like, damn it, I've like totally forgot about all this. People's profile picture, and even now still, people's pictures are grayed out because no one was even a middle connection.
Mhm.
Because I'm like coming out of the blue.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn wasn't even gonna show their face to me. So I was even kind of trailblazing past what the tech was going to allow me to do, even though we're still in Texas. You still drive 6 hours, you'll still be inside of Texas, or
Yeah.
not, from Austin, even the center point of Texas. Anyway, so, but, to back to your point about like, how did I was going to know that I was going to be an ecosystem builder? Like, what I had a feeling. I'll tell you this. And usually if you look at my background, I'm a total entrepreneur. I don't,
Yeah.
pontificate about my venture deals. I'm more of a media person. I let them speak and give them a platform, our great, investor partners and stuff. But I felt, to talk to founders about this, I felt the feeling of what would be like a statewide, or like I called it expansive feeling. Back in pandemic, when people were still moving to Austin, there was like 10 offers on one home,
Mm.
like a normal home,
Yeah,
and people
no,
didn't have
literally, yeah, no.
cars.
The
All
pandemic
these
was
calls were
crazy for
here.
the
Yeah.
real estate market, like especially out here.
Um, yeah, so I just had it was a weird feeling that now I'm like, oh, what else? What else could that have been? Versus before pandemic, I've been entrepreneurial. I knew exactly what to do and what to build around. I
Mm.
had the feeling of what was like, Venture Fest before I knew what to do. So I don't know
Mm.
if that's like too hippie trippy for this, but sometimes I'm just saying, tap in to your energy
Mm. I mean,
and be patient.
it's an accurate way to describe it, because even with with what we're building now, so I had this idea like 2013, legitimately, like when I first started like
Oh.
college, like for my what is it called, for my business comm major. And like I've been studying the problem that we had for a while. I completely put it on the shelf, and then I just magically started building it later on. And I thought we were solving a completely different problem, because I was like, that's not the real
Oh,
problem. I was wrong, but also right at the same time. It's very weird.
yeah,
Like, just the universe was like, no, we're gonna pull you back into solving this. I'm like, all right, like let's do it.
yeah.
Let's try it out. So I completely
Hmm.
understand what you mean when you say that.
Well, there's something to be said about, if sometimes I understand the hustle, and you gotta love it if you're an entrepreneur and you're gonna like get something up off the ground. It takes Herculean effort. But there's also something to be said about like reading or feeling the energy of something. Sometimes I'll work on a deal and I'm like, I'm just gonna die if we don't get this together. It's gonna be the end of everything. And then, a year goes by, I'm like, that wasn't actually even anything. This other deal that plopped right into my lap perfectly was it. I mean, it's just so crazy. It would drive most people nuts, which is why I'm so glad that you were building this network, because you have to share these stories.
Yeah,
We're the crazy ones. With the Steve Jobs, like, we're the crazy ones. So when we need to lean on each other and share these stories, and people think that we're promoting the investors and the universities and the chambers and EDCs. We kind of flipped the model. We made it easier for startups to see who all's there. Lay your
yeah,
resources out on the table. And I believe in another hippie tribute. That's like the theme of this interview, I guess. Another thing is, like, I don't believe that we can positively attract things to us and grow and become something awesome and even better unless we are grateful for what we have. And how
yeah,
can you be grateful for what you have unless you take a look at everything around you and say thank you, because it could have been worse. And when you have this positive energy, then you start to attract even more, and that's how you build. So
yeah.
anyway.
No, I mean 100%. You gave me an idea for a way for us to collaborate at another point. So we'll talk about that offline, because this is your show right now. But no, that's a fantastic way to put it as well. And it kind of, a lot of people shy away from or kind of forget the aspect that, like, at the end of the day, everybody's human, and at the end of the day, all this shit is hard. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
it's not an easy or magical process. Some things just happen by, I call it faith, trust, and pixie dust, and just all of the things. But also,
Oh,
like,
good.
things push you in. No, it's literally, that's what I said.
Yeah.
But it's also like there's
Yeah.
a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, I've seen a lot of the work. I've heard a lot about the work that you've done just around town. I think even before we actually like met and hung out at a certain point at like one of these events. I think it was like 2 years ago now. But before then, like, I had kept hearing around town just like, okay, these are the amazing, crazy, fun things that like you were putting on, and blah blah blah. And I, but it's also like these authentic kind of conversations and stories, because I think we all develop a certain mysticism, especially as we like start to have like a couple of successful events or do a couple of things.
Yeah, I
Also,
know
it's
what you
like,
mean.
I'm not magical at all. I think I want to be, but like it's going through that process of having those like conversations like this. We're like, hey, you're just human, I'm just human, and sometimes it's hard, but also sometimes it's really fun, and you want to share both of those stories without people kind of putting the different aspects on a pedestal. Because also there's a lot of things. I guess that's a better question that I would ask is like, so what in what ways can people help or support you in what you do?
Well, I want to back up and make a point to what you're saying. You're like, oh, I don't know if I'm magical. Yeah, you do. You are magical, and I don't mean to be cheesy, but like, like I'm a Care Bear or something. Like, oh, everything is awesome, magical. But, but that's the beauty of it is I do believe, in such a crazy world, even coming out of pandemic and stuff, but there's magic everywhere, you know? And then when you say things, you be careful what you say because it's really powerful. You really can
Yeah.
speak these things into existence. And, we're both entrepreneurs. Like we have to always think about that too. Like I do it myself. I mean, you kind of like vent a little bit, like just get out of your system.
Yeah.
But like you do have something magical about you, and then I have something magical about me. And when we see that in each other, and this is happening across the state, and we see this in founders, that's like the opportunity. It wasn't to create an association where people can cut like a 10 or 20 or 30K check and then like have a board membership and then do like, yes, that can happen. Yes, it happens. But we're talking about people. We're talking about the magic that entrepreneurs can create and they will create. And if you focus on that, then this is what people talk about when they say we need to further human flourishing. This is what human flourishing is,
Yeah.
maybe that takes the shape of an association. Maybe that's a newsletter. Maybe that takes the shape of interviews like this, but maybe that takes the shape of like uncommon or unnatural connections. Like maybe people didn't think about like Senate legislators as a part of this ecosystem of entrepreneur support. So there's magic in that too. And just sharing those stories, which you do a great job of anyway. Yeah, yeah. It's all good. I don't even remember what your question was, but I
No,
just wanted to make
I'll jump back into it because it was also just an off the cuff question, but I do remember it. But I want to redraw in on a point that you said when you said that everything is magical. One of my favorite quotes that I have learned in life actually came from like one of my college art teachers, and she gave me the quote of "everything is art." Like literally everything, every single aspect when you
oh
think about it
yeah.
is a piece of art in its own way, right? And so that's the
Yeah.
same thing that like I kind of draw from that sometimes and I look at like my journey or everything else, like everything is unique and everything that is unique is beautiful in some way. And it also
Yeah.
is it's got this like it can have power or weight to it if you want to, put that into it.
Yeah,
Um
and then look, it's all about perspective.
yeah.
It all sounds so cheesy, but it's like if you think about it, and like everything is art, there's beauty in everything, and even really horrible moments, there's something that came out of it. You could live your life thinking that everything was crappy, and even good things, you would see it as just crappy,
Yeah.
or bad. Or wouldn't you rather go through life, even if you were wrong, like the truth of it or whatever, even if you were wrong, if you look back on your life and you were just able to somehow see it as a good thing, then you have actually lived your life as seeing everything as good versus the same CS who lived her life thinking everything was crappy.
Mm.
It's a different life. It's an
Yeah.
entirely different life with the same life. So, it's hard, but there's even beauty in that. Like, hey, it was actually really crappy, but my experience and my view of it, maybe to change it, for the better, that was the opportunity. The same thing for Texas. I'll say this with Texas Venture Alliance. I wasn't thinking that Texas was the best place to build. We attract conversations like that, and people will, promote me on a panel and so I'll talk about Texas. But I actually thought that Texas could have been better. And we always talk about these silos. We need to
Yeah,
break down the silos. We need to talk to each other. I'm like, just shut up. Just do it then.
yeah,
Everyone just needs to shut up and do it. And
yeah,
so that I did it. It was really, risky and dangerous. Financially, it was all crazy. But I'm like, someone has to just run, and just like an entrepreneur, someone's just got to run out there and just do it. Just shut up and do it.
yeah. I mean, that's literally the exact same thought that I had too, which is like some people hate me in Austin when I say this, or like in Texas in general. Because I'm like, I don't view any location or any space as like being this like utopian place. Like I see the good and the bad. Maybe I'm too much of a realist. Maybe I need to be more sunshine and more rainbows. But I am like that. Like the reason why we're building what we're building specifically, and why I kind of retapped into this problem set was because yeah, the ecosystem in Austin is fantastic, right? I love the startup ecosystem is literally the thing that's keeping me here, and like from that, there's still enough flaws in it to where I'm like, okay, there's still a problem here that can be fixed and can be addressed, even with an amazing ecosystem, probably one of the best ecosystems I've seen for entrepreneurs or business owners or whatever in the from all of the places and cities and everything that I visited or had the pleasure of taking part in or living in. And so it's like we also can't see everything as being perfect. We have to find things that we can fix and can address instead of just kind of brushing them under the rug. But we can also
Yeah.
admire the beauty of like this is awesome, but also let's continue to make it better.
Yeah, it can be both. And yeah, I mean, it is both. And I like being around builders, which can be a little hard in the political, as we've gotten more into advocacy, um, the bureaucracy of things. I would say, regardless of politics, we do have the most active administration, whatever that
Yeah,
means to people. No doubt about it. We have the most active administration and the people and the programs around it. And I don't know if, okay, this is going to be really interesting to see this interview after everything.
right.
We're going to go down in history. But I do think that, again, regardless of politics, we have never seen this many entrepreneurs, tech people, investors in and around the White House in DC. And we have never had this moment in time where we are thinking about the country as a country, and what can states
Yeah,
do? We're looking at other states. When the Democrats left, if there's redistricting by the governor, influenced by Trump or something like that, um, it now impact. Where did they go? They go to Chicago, the Democrats. And then what did Gavin Newsom in California do? He had a response, to what Texas is doing. And he had a response to what Texas is doing. So we have just never had a more
yeah,
active, and I'll make a point about this, that some of the worst, or some of the most seemingly chaotic, I'll call it chaotic times, like a lot of stuff going on, a lot of shape shifting in the landscape and the market and in people's lives. In
yeah,
our world, like in startups and venture, some of the best companies, which means problem solving and solutions, come from these moments of uncertainty. Some of the best companies, they have, and we all know them. So just like
yeah,
that, with we talk about like tech companies or something, I think of that with people too. And our community is really well situated with our background and what it takes to be anything in this industry, in this crazy, startup and venture industry. We're very well situated to lead in other aspects too. We're well situated to solve a problem, to have a coalition, to make a big splash, to be a community, and to partner and to make a big difference. It's the same thing. So I know this wasn't anywhere on your questions probably, but I'm like, look, entrepreneurs.
Oh no,
Yeah.
this is all good
In
stuff.
DC and everything.
Yeah, no, what I always tell people on this, because we always go down some side tangent, which is always good. Like, if we stay on the topic and it's a really good topic, I don't care about pre-written questions or BS. That's what the whole point of this is like real, authentic conversations about things, right? But I want to draw back into the question that I asked because I do think it's important, which is, what do you need help with and how can people help you?
Oh, that's my cue. Okay.
Yeah.
Invite people, to the fest, join a fest, and realize it's not perfect. It's kind of like during South by when there's a lot of activities going on. We basically we're doing that. Basically, we branded it Texas. We should focus on our ecosystem and our community. So that's what it is. Join a fest, sponsor one next year, come to the gala. We're thinking about the gala now. And that's a really big, effort. It's a lot of fun. We get, in our industry, sometimes we don't really see each other get like dressed up. Like, it's a gala or a gala to people outside of Texas, a gala. And sign up for the newsletter so that we can keep in touch on all this stuff.
No, perfect. And I want to make sure there's a couple of more things we can go into, but also I know that my laptop is down 5% too. So I'm sorry about that. But I want to make no, it literally is on 5. I just looked at it right now and I turned my brightness down because that's on 5%. But I will say I want to make sure that we highlight like how can people get connected with you. And so if you want to like give information on how people can stay connected with you, how can people basically be a part of all of the things that you're doing.
Just use the QR code. I guess that goes to my LinkedIn, and I'm pretty active on there. I probably won't be as active like after the fest. I'll probably take a breather. I'm already planning to be a little bit burnt out. Which, as an entrepreneur, I like to a little bit run myself into the ground for these events, but I like to give my fullest to something. And so if there's any way that you could help, you see, like you want to volunteer or whatever, stay connected and you'll know what's up.
Yeah, awesome. And just for everybody, if you want to sign up for the Venture Fest this Thursday, please do. The QR code is below for the Venture Fest. And yep, see, my laptop's already dying on me because my video is just going super slow. So I'll turn my video off. First up, I love technical difficulties, things, right? Right where we're at the end. But the QR code is there on the screen for that. And then if you want to just sign up directly on the Luma calendar, the Luma calendar is right here. So definitely make sure you sign up. I'm going to be there live and in person without any technology, hopefully, maybe just a mic or two on what is it on Thursday? I think 2:45 is when we go on to do a quick.
Yeah, it'll be my turn. It'll be my turn to have the technical difficulties. We'll speak it into existence.
Right. No, perfect. So that sounds better than me having them. But no, literally, no. Thank you so much for being on. And yeah, no. Sorry for the random glitch right at the end. I honestly didn't even realize my laptop was draining.
No, it's all good. The spotlight's on me now.
But right. But no, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys all for listening to the session today. And definitely make sure you guys attend the Texas Venture Fest across all of the different cities. If you're not in Austin, but you are in Texas, it's probably a city that you are near or a city that you are in where some amazing things are happening. So please make sure that
sounds good.